Why does a good God allow suffering and evil? Everyone faces this problem in various ways. You've suffered. I've suffered. Everyone you know has suffered, probably in many ways. So, why do these things happen? If you don't know me already, my name is Bryce Roth, and I'm not an expert on these things. In fact, I'm asking questions and looking for answers just like you are. Maybe you are unsatisfied with the answers you've gotten with these big questions, these hard questions. And I'm right there with you because I think there are answers. We can walk through the valley of the shadow of death together as we search for the truth. And maybe we'll find some of the answers to our questions. So, back to our question, why does a good God allow suffering and evil? There is one crucial thing to recognize when asking this question. The technical term for it is the problem of evil. And that's actually an issue because there are problems of evil, not just one problem. The main difference is there are heart problems and there are mind problems. Maybe suffering bothers you because it just doesn't make sense. You don't understand why it happens. Or maybe it bothers you because it hurts you or the people that you care about. Most commonly, this is broken down into three categories. Number one is the logical problem of evil. This is stated as God is all good, God is all powerful, and yet evil exists. The claim is that these are contradictory. Only two of these can be true, not all three. God can be all good and evil exist, but then he's not all powerful. Or God can be all powerful and evil exist, but then he's not all good. If God exists, he is either unable or unwilling to prevent evil. People may express this problem by saying God can't be all good and all powerful and let these evil things happen. Number two is the evidential problem of evil. And this differs from the logical problem because it's not illogical to believe that God is all powerful and all good and that evil exists, but it's highly unlikely. This is a probability argument. Proponents of this argument say that it's more likely, since evil exists, that God is either not all good, not all powerful, or he doesn't exist at all. This is when people say, I don't think an all good, all powerful God is a good explanation for the suffering that I see in the world. I think something else explains it better. And thirdly, there is the existential problem of evil, also known as the religious or the pastoral problem. Now, the previous two problems were of the mind, but this problem stems from the heart. It's emotional. It's about the personal experience of suffering and evil. How do you endure it? This problem is often what leads people to reject or walk away from God after they've believed in him. It's when people say, how could a loving God let this happen to me or to somebody I love? Often it's not a real question, but rather it's crying out in pain and confusion and feeling like God isn't there or that he doesn't care. These three problems of evil all ask different questions. That means they can't be answered in the same way. So it's important to clarify which problem of evil you're discussing. Now, another important question when asking why does God allow suffering and evil is what is evil? What is suffering? There are quite a few types of evil and suffering. To start with, there is moral evil. Moral evil is evil brought about by a moral agent, by people. This includes things like murder, abuse, rape, genocide, and the list goes on. It's important to distinguish this because we don't look at moral evil the same way we look at natural evil. Natural evil is evil that's not brought about by people. In other words, nobody caused it to happen. These are things like tsunamis, tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, floods, and cancer and other illnesses. So this is another kind of evil. It's not the same thing as moral evil. It's also not the same as metaphysical evil, which is ways that the universe is set up that make moral and natural evils possible. These are supposed flaws and limitations of the universe. It can also refer to spiritual forces of darkness like Satan. But again, it's not the same thing as moral or natural evil. And there's one more classification of evil, which is gratuitous evil. Gratuitous evil is evil that seems to have no purpose or is excessive. For example, it could be a young child being brutally raped, molested, and murdered. That seems excessive. It seems like there's no purpose to that. It could also be animal suffering like Bambi, where a fawn is trapped in the forest for several days in excruciating pain before it dies. And again, that seems excessive. It seems like there's no purpose to that. So these four types of evil, moral, natural, metaphysical, and gratuitous, are all theological in nature. They deal with sin and evil. But some evils are physical in nature, and they deal with pain and suffering. So these types of evils, first of which is physical pain, which is pretty straightforward. It can range in severity quite a bit. There's a big difference between a stubbed toe and a torn ACL, but they're both physical pain. Secondly, there's mental pain, which doesn't have to include any kind of physical pain, although it can. This is emotional and psychological. It's anguish, and it can be brought about by a number of things: rejection, failure, mental or emotional abuse, relationship issues, and so many other things. And then thirdly, there's suffering. Now, suffering has an objective and a subjective side to it. Objectively, suffering is about who you are as a person and about your concern to flourish as that kind of person. Flourishing in your career, your relationships, your skills and personal development, that kind of thing. And subjectively, suffering is about the desires of your heart and losing or being denied those things. Now, morally, most people wouldn't say it's bad if someone is kept from flourishing or fulfilling the desire of their heart, if that includes things like being a drug dealer, a hitman, or a prostitute, or wanting to commit as many robberies or cheat on your spouse as many times as possible. Most people wouldn't say that's bad if someone is kept from flourishing in that way. However, subjectively, to that person, that is a form of suffering. So there are many problems of evil, and there are many types of evil. There are also a lot of worldviews, and that is point number 3. Evil is a problem for every worldview. There are a lot of people who reject Christianity because of suffering and evil. However, that doesn't make suffering and evil disappear or make them less painful. Evil isn't only a problem for Christianity. It's also a problem for Buddhism, for Islam, for atheism and secularism, for any worldview. People are still going to be faced with the existence of evil. So the question is, what worldview deals with evil best? We have to compare them. What solution does each worldview offer to the problem of evil? Tim Keller, in his book Walking with God Through Pain and Suffering, examines some different worldviews and the solutions they offer. It's something I've found particularly helpful, at least as a starting place, And here's just a quick recap of what he says. Buddhism says to accept suffering. Karma says to pay it. Fatalism says to heroically endure it. Secularism says to avoid or fix it. And Christianity redeems and offers hope in suffering. So there are many problems of evil. There are many types of evil. And there are a lot of worldviews, all of which must deal with evil. So why does God allow suffering and evil? While I may not have put forth a specific answer in this video, because again, I'm asking these questions and I'm looking for answers with you, I hope this video clarifies what question you're really asking and gives you an idea of how to look for answers. Is it, how could God allow my loved one to die so suddenly and unexpectedly? Or is it, why did God make a world so full of suffering? Or is it, why do bad things happen to good people? If that's your specific question, then make sure you subscribe so you don't miss my upcoming video on that specific question. And also go down in the comments and tell me what your question is. I'll look through those, I'll respond to them, and I'll make a specific video for your question. Until next time.